All right. So my name's David Ballou, here with CoStar, and my associate Dennis Lee here as well. I've been with CoStar for 4 years and change now, and I've been working in real estate for about 15 years now. My first job in real estate was working for a hedge fund that was buying and selling foreclosed houses all over the United States. We had about 8,000 houses in the portfolio, all 50 states. I ran the field services department for that company. I moved to Los Angeles in 2016, did apartment building property management and then some HOA property management. I got my real estate license in 2017 and went directly into commercial real estate. I was focused on housing development projects and multifamily deals here in San Gabriel Valley and then also in Long Beach. Worked for some real estate attorneys for a little while, and then I came to work for CoStar. So I've worn a lot of different hats in real estate. I love talking about real estate, and we're here today to talk about CoStar.
And my name is Dennis Lee. So I came from the Bay Area up in Cupertino, worked at FedEx, Apple, coupons.com, so more tech. And then I moved to LA to be with my wife, and I did 2 years at Sperry Commercial, and I got recruited to work at CoStar. So my favorite part of the job is I get to work with really talented people in the commercial real estate space. So our goal today is to go over CoStar data, how to prospect. We're going to go over multifamily, look at contact information, and then also look at ownership portfolio data, okay?
All right. So share my screen here. All right. Okay, so we're looking at the CoStar homepage now. This is our news landing. One of the things CoStar does is focus on news and commercial real estate. We have about 50 full-time journalists on staff. We're basically Wall Street Journal for commercial real estate news. In the middle here are kind of like the national headlines, like the same stories for everybody. The left side here, these are customizable. So I have mine set up for LA, Orange County, Inland Empire, all product types. You could have that set up as like just multifamily in Los Angeles or industrial in Inland Empire, whatever it is that you're focused on. Lots of different types of stories that we'll run here, major transactions, market trends, interviews with major players in the industry. It's good information for you as an agent, but they're also fantastic client engagement pieces. For instance, we were just talking about office leasing. Well, In-N-Out just signed a big corporate office deal in San Dimas, of all places. There was news that they were going to be moving their corporate headquarters out to Tennessee, I believe, and they were going to be closing the Irvine office. Well, they just signed a big, I think it's like 90,000 square foot office lease here in San Dimas, so right here in San Gabriel Valley. You can send that story out to a client. Maybe they own an office building. Maybe they're looking for office space as a tenant. Either way, get them talking to you about their real estate, based on something that's happening nearby them that's relevant, to them and their real estate. All right, so I'm going to go to properties now.
And I think maybe what we can do is just kind of like for Michelle's purpose, would it be possible just to do like city of industry, office, and then click analytics and see what's happening in
Sure.
the city, just for Michelle's sake?
Sure, sure. So what Dennis is talking about is doing a custom analytics set in CoStar. This is a very valuable tool, both again for yourself as an agent, or if you're talking to a potential client or an existing client, and they just want some market information. When I was a customer of CoStar, I really like to use this tool when I was cold calling. I was doing apartments, and so I would be calling, property owners, and they'd want to know, what is vacancy like in the area, or what's average rent, or what concessions are being offered to tenants, what's construction pipeline look in an area, all those questions that our custom analytics tool can help you answer in real time. So we said, what, city of industry?
Yeah, city of industry. So he's in the properties module right now.
And we're going to say office. And is your building, is it multi-tenant or single tenant?
Multi,
Okay.
it's pretty much full service, but that doesn't matter.
So we'll say,
It's small.
when I click filters here, you can see just how detailed you can be with a property search here. I think it's like 600 different filterable fields. And so like in this case, I want to look specifically for multi-tenant properties. Because like the analytics are probably going to be a little different for like a big office building with smaller spaces versus like a standalone property that's like a different kind of tenant and probably also a different type of owner of those properties. So top right corner, you always have the count, like how many search results we have based on the criteria we put in. So there's 33 multi-tenant office properties in the city of industry. There are 24 spaces currently available for lease right now in those properties.
So what he's doing is he's clicking on analytics. It looks like a cell phone tower on the right-hand side. So what that does is it aggregates the data and spits it out for you. So if you want to know what's happening in the city of industry for office or multifamily or hotels, you're going to be able to look up the data too.
Okay. So across those 33 properties, that is 1.6 million square feet of space. There's nothing currently under construction. Net absorption is 8.9 thousand or 8,900 square feet. Net absorption. Absorption is a measure of leasing activity. So you usually talk about gross absorption or net absorption. Gross absorption is you add up all the leases that have been signed, and that's your gross absorption. Net absorption is your gross absorption number, and then you subtract out all the space that's been vacated. So if you have a negative net absorption number, which is what we saw last year, that means that there was more space vacated than leased. Positive net absorption means more space leased than vacated. Negative net absorption makes people very nervous, especially for landlords. Like we're losing tenants. We're trying, especially if you have vacancy, like that's not a good sign. So a positive number, even 9,000 square feet, it's still positive. That's encouraging sign, especially if you're a landlord trying to lease office space. Now, if you think about that the other way, let's say you're working with a tenant. I would love to see negative net absorption if I'm representing a tenant. That means I have leverage, in a negotiation with a landlord. The landlords are kind of losing that, game of tug of war there. So kind of depending which side of the transaction you're standing, either way, you just, want to be clear about what's happening in the market. So current vacancies at 4%. That's a 0.6 improvement from the prior period. Asking rent on average is at $294 a foot. Market sale price is at $309 a foot, and the cap rate is at 6.9%. Now, these 4 boxes underneath the top line numbers here. Availability is a breakdown of all the available space. So there's 58.4 thousand total available. 5.8 of that is sublet. 63.3 is vacant. So there's actually some vacant space that's already been leased. That's interesting. Good to know. I always want to pay attention to those 3 numbers in here. Like, is there some significant percentage of sublet space? That would be another thing to be potentially concerned about, kind of like negative net absorption. If there's lots of sublet space available, that's usually not a good sign for the landlords, or a good sign if you're a tenant, because there's probably a better deal out there for you as a tenant there. Inventory is going to be looking at property count and construction pipeline, sales over the past year. Have there been any sale transactions? Which looks like no. And the demand is looking at that leasing activity over the past 12 months. I never know exactly what it is that's going to be interesting to a client, but probably something from that top line there and one of those 4 boxes is going to be interesting and relevant to the client that you're talking to. That's why I really like having this in front of me when I'm on the phone with somebody, especially somebody I don't know necessarily. Like you want to establish credibility with them, to help win business. And so, okay, you're now the market expert and in this area, and you can redo these searches to make them more relevant to that particular client. Like we just did all multi-tenant office and city of industry. You could look at properties built between a certain year, a certain lot size, certain number of parking spaces for an apartment building, certain amenities that are on site. For a industrial property, like certain clear height, yard space, power on site, like any sort of filtered search that you might run in here, you can still get to that kind of data set that we're looking at here.
And just curious, Michelle, how long did it take to lease out that 1,000 square foot space, approximately?
Well, we've had the listing for quite a while, but we've had so many that Shumay was focused more on the larger, and now we've moved into the office building, so I would say at least a year.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
She was leasing all around it, like bigger spaces.
So average months to lease for these multi-tenant office and city of industry has been a little over 6 months.
Oh, right.
That's encouraging to me. If I'm really on either side of that, like if I'm a tenant, that's not so long, to be on a search for a property. If I'm a landlord, that's not so much, rent being lost, to vacancy. Like that's pretty good news. Any questions about any of this so far?
I do my searches for comps, but how did you get here? Can you just show us one more time?
Sure. So I'm in the properties tab.
Yeah.
I put in my filters, which in this case is city of industry, office, multi-tenant under filters, and then analytics right here.
Okay, there we go. Analytics, okay.
On the analytics page, there's also graphs underneath here that you can share with your client. There's box and whisker there, and then into like the bar graphs underneath. The internet's being a little slow. Yeah, there we go.
You've never seen this before, huh, Michelle? Yeah, yeah.
So this is great.
You can jump to like any one of the individual sections here, like if you want to look specifically at like what has happened with rent. So average asking rent here, the rent growth over here. You can also get historical data here. So if you click the data here, data tab right there, that'll give you quarter by quarter breakdown going back, I think 20 years for most places in Los Angeles. So like a lot of people want to know, like, how is the market performing compared to before COVID, or like around certain interest rate drops, for instance. These can answer, kind of more high level questions that your client might have about like when is a time to invest, or like how is the market doing now compared to, when they bought, for instance. The data tab here will help you answer those questions quickly. Scroll over to the right here to see those figures over here. A lot of interesting things to be done with custom analytics in CoStar.
And I guess another thing that Michelle wanted us to go over was how to look up ownership information. So I guess we'll look up owners in, let's say, for example, San Gabriel Valley, and then look up multifamily owners.
All right. So for that, I'm going to do a submarket search specifically for San Gabriel Valley. I always liked San Gabriel Valley for multifamily because there's lots and lots and lots of smaller property owners. There's not like, I mean, there are some huge landlords, but it's not like, two landlords that own like, half of the property inventory.
And maybe I made your job harder. Maybe we could just maybe even do Alhambra.
No.
We'll do one city. Okay,
let's do San Gabriel Valley. Yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty.
All right, so now we're looking at San Gabriel Valley, the CoStar San Gabriel Valley submarket, which does exclude Pasadena. And I think that's probably correct. Like Pasadena tends to be higher rent, higher property value. It's a different clientele of renter usually than what you'd see in the rest of San Gabriel Valley. You could do like into specific cities or zip codes, or even like draw a shape on a map, however you want to do that. But the submarket filters are also available here. So let's look at multifamily. All right, so 5,184 apartment buildings in the San Gabriel Valley. Now, in multifamily and CoStar means 5 units and up. You will find some information on here and on 2, 3s, and 4s. Just the research department doesn't actively track them the way we do the 5 units and up. So 5,184, that's kind of a lot. That's a big chunk to take out. I would like to narrow this list down a little bit. Maybe I'd like to look for properties that haven't sold in the last 10 years. Go to filters. I'm going to put in a last sale date, no sale more recently than, we'll do January 1st, 2016. All right, so that cut our list basically in half. So now we're down to 2,100. Great. That's still a big farm to work with. The next thing I'd want to do, if I'm trying to get a listing, I'm trying to get in touch with a property owner. If the property's currently for sale with somebody else, I want to take it out of the list. Like they already signed a listing agreement over there. That's not for me. Let's focus just on, what we can actually get a listing agreement signed. So I'm going to now filter for the ones that are currently for sale and delete them. There's 16 of them. And then we're going to take out that for sale filter. Now I've got a nice clean list of 2,140 apartment buildings in San Gabriel Valley that have not sold in the last 10 years. That's my farm. That's what I'm going to work on. I'm going to call these people. I'm going to send them letters. I'm going to try to meet them in person. I'm going to find them on LinkedIn, whatever your approach is. That's my focus area. This would be a fantastic search to save with an alert attached to it there. If you save the search, that means we can come back to the list, whenever you want. You'll have to set up, that set of filters every time. Also, if you enable an alert there, CoStar will tell you when anything happens to one of these properties. That could be listed for sale. That could be sold off market. That could be the building was demolished. That could be the property management company changed. Just anything that's being updated in the system, that alert will notify you when something's happening with your farm. Okay. Now, a couple ways we could approach this list. I could go to an individual property record, which we'll spend a little time sort of going through, what you would find here. So this one is 4 units. It was built in 1977. Walk score, number of parking spaces. Looks like they had a loan attached to the property that's maturing in November of this year. That might be a good reason to talk to them about their property. Any specific building amenities, ownership information. We'll talk more about that in just a second. Traffic count. So these are the number of cars that pass through nearby this property. That's usually more of an interest to retail operators, but you'll see that on any property record in the system. Demographic information, market conditions here. These are pulled from our quarterly market and submarket reports. You can go into the full reports, which we're going to look at later, but on any specific property, you can see the vacancy rate for this property, similar property nearby, and the market overall. Average rent, any concessions, construction pipeline, and sales activity with the year-over-year changes. So again, you're just kind of quickly assessing market conditions for this specific property now. Any questions about any of this so far?
The demographics and the traffic count, like on the retail properties, is nice for flyers.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't have to reinvent the wheel, it's right there.
Demographics in particular, we could probably spend an hour going through the whole page here. Like if you click on the demographic tab. And different sections are usually relevant to different people. Like the daytime spending categories are obviously very important to retail operators. The workforce numbers are important for warehouse owners. They want to make sure there's enough people in the area to fill the jobs, in the warehouse that they're gonna put into the property. Income levels, if I want to get a certain type of tenant, an apartment building, I want to have some idea of median household income in the area. All that accessible right here. All right, now contacts. So CoStar is going to track a variety of different contact information. If we know there's a broker, there's a listing, we're going to list the broker's information. If we know who the property management company is, if there is a property management company, we'll list them there. Now, recorded owner and true owner. Recorded owner is the name on title. A lot of time that's going to be an LLC, a family trust, an INC, a shell entity, basically. In this case, Wong Trust. So I can't talk to Wong Trust. I don't know what that is. One of the things our research department does is digs into the paperwork of Wong Trust or an LLC or something like that to get to the true owner. In this case, Wong Trust belongs to Mary Wong, who lives in Monterey Park. That's her phone number. That's her email address. On October 3rd, 2019 is when we collected that information. The contact information is always timestamped, so you know how recently that information was collected. So we can call Mary, we can send her an email, we can send her a letter, you could go door knock if you want to, whatever your approach is, to go find Mary and talk to her about this property. There's always somebody in the research department listed right here. Let's say the phone number is disconnected. Amanda here, that's her phone number, that's her email address. Reach out to her, see if she can dig up another phone number.
So David brought up two important parts, right? Number one is collecting data to know what's happening with this specific property. So when you're talking to the owner, you're going to be able to give them more information about what's happening with the market, what the rental rates are like in the area. And then number two is he showed you how to get the contact information of owners of multifamily properties in San Gabriel Valley. So you have two things to play with now. So when you're reaching out to these owners, you're going to have better conversations with these owners.
Okay. So we could keep going down the line here, go through each one of these 2,140 properties. Two problems with that. That's a lot of properties. That's going to take a lot of time. It's kind of inefficient. The other problem with that There's probably some people in this list of properties who own multiple properties, multiple buildings. I don't want to call the same person 5 different times about 5 different properties. It's a waste of my time and theirs. You're also kind of blowing an opportunity to establish credibility with them. You have the, especially like a cold call like that. You have like, 30 seconds basically to convince this person that you're worth their time basically. And so just talking about an individual property when they own 20 is leaving money on the table for yourself and also kind of letting them know that you didn't do any research about who they are and what they do. So instead of the list of properties here, go to the owners right here. So that's going to give us the list of the owners of these properties. And there's a bunch of repeat owners in here. Of the 2,140 properties, there's 1,221 unique owners in there. So this is the name of the company. This is where they're located. Number of properties in search. That's telling me Golden Management, which is in El Monte, owns 52 of these 2,140 apartment buildings that haven't sold in the last 10 years. If I sort by that column, whoever's at the top of the list, that's my biggest landlord in the area, or however I set my search up. Let's say I want to be the master of multifamily in San Gabriel Valley. I must have a relationship of some kind with Golden Management. They own 52 of these properties. That's more than 5 times as many as the next biggest landlord here. I gotta know them. They need to know me. Now, the other column I'm looking at is properties owned. That's telling me how many properties does that company or person own anywhere in our database of any kind, which for Golden Management is 858. So they're a huge landlord. 858 commercial properties. That's a massive portfolio. If I'm prospecting for a listing, maybe I'd rather go with Craig and Sue here. That's just a person, a couple, 2 people. They live in Arcadia. They own 7 of these apartment buildings that haven't sold in the last 10 years that we're interested in. They own 9 total. That's probably easier to get a listing from, right? I mean, up to you, call everybody. And again, like if you want to be the master of the area, like I definitely want to talk to Golden Management, but I'm trying to get a listing. I'd probably start here or here. Anybody with multiple in this column of number of properties in search. And for me, I always thought the sweet spot in properties owned was anything under 20, and especially if they're local or if they're out of state. Most of these are probably local, but if you ever see somebody that's, especially a person that's out of state, that's a really good person to call because they probably need somebody local, eyes on their property for them. And if they're interested in buying more property in the area, you can be their local expert now.
Can you do me a favor, David, and click on Craig? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at all the properties they own. So this is gonna be how you can track their entire portfolio. In addition to that, you can see their contact information too.
Just load.
And sometimes what happens when we're on Zoom and then CoStar, it just takes a little bit longer because they're fighting for the bandwidth. But generally, if you're only on CoStar, not on Zoom, it goes really, really fast. So the cool thing too is like what you can do is we even have a owners module within CoStar. So you can see like all the owners of multifamily properties in San Gabriel Valley. So you can see like positive investments, all the properties they own and manage, who the contacts are.
Yeah, so here's all their property. So all multifamily. Contacts associated there. Phone numbers here. If we have their email address, it'll be a little icon right here. Sometimes we'll get their LinkedIn profiles. That'll depend, from owner to owner what we can find. Mailing address right here. Their transaction history. Which looks like their last purchase was 2016, 2018 right here. So now you're armed with all the information you would need for that conversation. And so I'm going down the list. I've talked to Craig and Sue. I ran a custom analytics set, relevant to their property, which now we're looking at basically small multifamily in San Gabriel Valley right here. You've got a lot of information now to establish credibility, win some business. Any questions right now? Okay. What's this? Now reports. There's a lot of reports available inside CoStar. There's a lot of customization available for the reports in CoStar. I think we have too many properties selected actually to do these. Let's try 50 to 100 units. Yeah, okay. So we have how it works is they're set up as templates, which then you can customize to kind of make them yours. Let's say I want to take like a property map and list report. That's going to include these sections right here, which may have some options like what type of map do you want to use, the orientation. Oh, this poor computer. There we go. Now, maybe I want to include some of this other stuff here, like the property summary, or the previous sale of the property, or the specific market conditions that are relevant to each individual property. For a retail, office, or industrial property, maybe I'd want the tenant role, in the current property. For apartment buildings, the unit mix might be good. Any specific amenities, like whatever it is that you want to share with your client here. Another great example of customization. Let's say you were sending listings out to one of your clients. I don't want to give them the listing agent's phone number and name. Take it off. Just always pay attention to, what you're including with the report. Once you've got your sections included, you can make a cover page, including a prepared for and by section. It's not going to load for us. This was just added in a couple months ago. If you have a picture in the system, it'll automatically load onto that cover page. Yeah, here you go. With all your contact information. You can also upload a photo of your clients if you want to do it that way. Picture of the property you choose, which you can choose from the drop-down right here, which one you want to highlight on the cover page there. The legal disclaimer box, any text you put in here will populate at the bottom of the report. I was an agent with KW Commercial, and so Keller Williams had this big block of text that they wanted us to put, like legal disclaimers, basically, at the bottom of any reports. You just copy paste it into the box. You don't have to re-enter it every time. A lot of my clients put their contact information like this, maybe their DRE number, whatever you want to put at the bottom of the report, it'll appear at the bottom of the page.
And why this is important to you is because this is how you can add value. If you were going to do the reports, it might take you hours to do, and it also like a graphics team in order to do that. Sometimes we're just one person doing everything. So within CoStar, you're able to put in the information that you want. And then within a minute or two, CoStar is going to be able to make that brochure for you. And then you can send it to your client. So that's how you can add value. So if the client wants to know what's happening with the market, or if you want to give them a list of properties that are currently for sale, or if you want to give them sales comps, you can easily do so with CoStar. Any questions so far? So David went over how to look at office, look at analytics. We looked at how to prospect for multifamily in San Gabriel Valley. We looked at how to get reports. Is there anything else that you had questions about in commercial real estate?
Oh, I was going to do sale comps.
Okay, cool. Now let's do sale comps then.
Okay.
Great.
So sale comps or lease comps, either one. There's not a lot of transaction activity happening for commercial in the MLS. If you're looking for comp information, like it's probably not there. That's because CoStar is where the vast majority of commercial agents are transacting their properties. When I was an agent, me and the 15 or 16 agents in my office, we didn't even hang our license with the board. We didn't touch the MLS. CoStar is where the transactions are taking place. So for sale comps, we're going to come in here. And let's say we're looking for industrial. And we'll look out here in Inland Empire, or in Ontario. let's say I'm looking for 20 to 50,000 square feet. This is going to default to the last 2 years. Let's look at just the last 6 months.
And what David is showing you is we're just doing it for industrial, but if you wanted to do for multifamily or for office, you can do the sales comps for that too. It's just like a couple clicks.
Yeah, any of these categories here. You can also be more specific in the subcategories. So like multifamily is kind of general, but like retail, let's say I'm looking specifically for a restaurant or auto repair or a shopping mall or something like that. For industrial, I'm specifically looking for cold storage or food processing. There are subcategories here as the secondary type. Yes,
What's a student under that category? Are you looking for a student?
that's gonna be student housing.
No.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so industrial property, 20 to 50,000 square feet in the last 6 months in the Ontario area. I have 18 property records here. Now you'll see on the map, some of those are lighter blue right here. Those ones are in escrow right now. They haven't closed. So CoStar is tracking those transactions. For a sale comp exercise, I probably want to uncheck the under contract ones. I do have some clients that use the under contract ones, though. They're basically looking for 1031 opportunities. So if you have a listing, maybe something off market especially, you can specifically look for properties that are under contract and call the brokers there and see if their client is looking for an up leg or a down leg on the transaction. An additional benefit to try to put deals together. All right, so 16 transactions. Now, analytics in the sale comp section is basically going to crunch the numbers for us on these transactions. So our average cap rate was 5.9%. Sale price, $300 a foot. Now, sale versus asking price and months to sale. On average, these properties sold 7.2% under asking, and they were on the market for 10 and a half months. I always want to be very clear with my client about these two numbers. It's important on the listing side because you want to be clear with your client to set expectations for the listing. It is not the summer of 2021. We should not expect all cash, multiple offers over asking. That is not what the market is producing here. Now, if I'm on the buyer side, this looks like fantastic news. I think we could make ourselves a low offer and get a better deal on behalf of our client. Again, whatever side of the transaction you're on, you just want to be clear with your client to manage expectations going into a potential transaction. Now, let's take a look at them from a list view. All right, so you can see some of these were part of multi-property sales. This one was a 7-property portfolio. I'd like to get rid of those. If you have multiple properties going on, it's kind of hard to say like where exactly the value was assigned. So let's just remove those. Couple more down here. There's a filter for that, actually. Let's exclude the bulk and multi-property. You could also exclude condo sales. Like an industrial condo is definitely going to be very different than a standalone property. All right. So now looking at these, looks like most of these are closer to like the 20,000 square foot range. So maybe I want to get rid of 48,000 square foot. We're just kind of, again, narrowing our list down to actual comps now. Now going into a specific record, okay, so this one closed on January 8th at 7.7 million. That was $303 a foot. It was on the market for 205 days. It's fully leased at the time of sale. Buyer and seller information, and again, you can see that recorded versus true. The name on title for both entities was an LLC here. We're getting to the actual person with their contact information here. Transaction details, this is what the title company would give you. The sale notes is what our research department was able to find out additionally about the transaction besides just like the sale price. So in this case, the transaction was structured as an owner-user sale. Single-story industrial facility on 1.15 acres. Information was verified by the brokers on the deal. Now the documents, we almost always get the deed. That's usually how we start collecting comp information. We get the deeds. Every commercial deed that's recorded in California gets sent to our research department, and we start our research process with those. Historical marketing brochures. Sometimes we get loan documents. It just sort of depends, from transaction to transaction, what we can get our hands on. Brokers involved on the transaction. Sources and research down here. The verification sources, where do we get the information? So in this case, the doc inspection is the deed, the listing broker and the buyer broker. It was published January 8th. It was updated again about a month later. So as we learn more information about this property and this transaction, we're going to come back here and make updates to the record to make sure the information is up to date. And again, somebody from the research department with their contact information, if you have a question, need more information about the transaction, reach out to them right there. So we had edited our search down a little bit. We'd started with, I think, 16 records, and now we're down to 9. Go back to analytics, see how our numbers updated. Okay, so cap rate about the same. Price per square foot went down a little bit. Now there is no sale versus asking price now. The property sold right at asking price, or these were all off-market transactions. So if a property was sold off-market, was there really an asking price? It was never listed anywhere. It was just the sale price, the final sale price is what was being tracked. If the property was listed on CoStar, that's where we're showing the difference between the initial asking and the final sale. Always want to be aware of that. Just like in the property section, reports here so you can present comps both as a potential listing or to a prospective buyer, either one. Any questions about that? Okay.
So one really cool thing too that a lot of brokers really like is we can also see who the active buyers and sellers are in let's say for example, let's do like maybe Alhambra, right? So why don't we do like sales comps Alhambra multifamily for the last 5 years and see who the main buyers and sellers are? Because a lot of people just use sales comps for comps, but you can also use it for prospecting too.
This is also something you can do if you have a listing and you're trying to directly market a property, especially something off market. This is something me and the team I used to work on did very successfully. We pretty much only marketed our properties this way. Like we would only put it in a listing service if the seller called us and was like, hey, I can't find my listing. What's going on? And then we'd be like, oh, okay, we'll put it in the listing service. Otherwise, we were calling other people directly, offering them their property off market. And really, every one of those conversations was also trying to get a listing out of that person. Maybe they need to do a 1031 to purchase the property you're offering them. But either way, like all those conversations are also listing opportunities as well. There's been 93 multifamily transactions in Alhambra in the last 5 years. If I go to the list, let's go to the buyers. And just like the owners list that we were looking at, the name of the owner here, where are they located, number of sales in search now. So who's been the most active buyer in Alhambra for multifamily? Positive Investments, and a couple other individuals here have gone for 2. Properties owned, how many properties they own, anywhere, everywhere of any kinds. You can do the same thing on the seller side. Who's the most active seller in Alhambra? Now, sometimes you'll see that where they say 0 properties owned here, they sold off all their property. They don't own anything right now. But either way, you're tracking that buyer and seller information.
What are some powerful things that you see, Michelle, from CoStar that would be helpful?
Where I'm normally working is in the comps, but you gave me like the analytics. I never click that. I make the individual reports for the
Mhm.
comps, for Shumay. So what you just showed me with the analytics, I'm excited to try that.
Another thing I'll show you with the analytics.
Yeah, like David actually taught me this too. Like in the analytics, there's a print button too that it makes it like super easy to like look at.
This is actually probably my favorite report in all of CoStar. So we had seen that like the top line with like the 4 boxes underneath. I really like that as a one pager. Something you could like leave with somebody after like a coffee meeting, not like a full listing presentation, but like maybe something a little more informal. Let it load. That print button right there. So what it's really doing is printing like the whole thing, like all the graphs and everything beneath, which you could do that if you like. I really like the first page though.
Yeah.
So just print, yeah, just the first page, print it landscape format on the printer.
And I'll start using that because I'm just doing the report without the analytics. That's nice.
There you go.
Oh, look at that.
I really like that as a one pager right there. Perfect. And customizable again, like whatever it is that you're working on. A hotel in Monterey Park, an office lease in City of Industry, an industrial purchase in Inland Empire, a retail lease in Orange County, like whatever it is that you're working on right there.
All right,
No problem.
good luck, okay? Thanks so much for joining, Michelle. Yeah.
And then Brett will take over later. Thank you.
Okay, the last thing I wanted to go through was just some sort of general market information about what's been happening in Southern California. So we'll go to markets here. So custom analytics is your version of market analytics. Like you're putting in the property filters, buildings of a certain size, a certain age, in a certain area, whatever. In the market section, this is where you can get CoStar's quarterly market and submarket reports. These are specific to each asset class. So I know we had some interest in hotels, so I'll choose hospitality this time. Now the markets for Southern California, pretty simple. LA, Orange County, Inland Empire. San Diego to the south, Bakersfield to the north. Pretty simple. These submarkets are going to be a little different depending on the type of property that you choose. Zoom the map
And
in
just
here.
curious, the person that had a question about hotels, which area were you looking at?
Orange County?
Orange County and LA. Okay, cool.
Okay. So those are the hospitality submarkets in Orange County now. There's Orange County Northwest, there's Anaheim, there's Disneyland specifically, because like those hotels are going to be very different than the rest of the area. We have Santa Ana, Costa Mesa, and then Newport Beach, Dana Point. Now on the right side here, the default sorting is the total or I think it's inventory rooms for hotels. It's asset value for all the other ones. Number of inventory rooms is the default sorting here. If I go to list view, I can sort by any of these individual metrics, whatever it is that me or my client is focused on. Existing building count, average rooms per building, 12-month inventory growth, under construction, 12-month occupancy rates, the change over the past 12 months here, ADR, RevPAR, occupancy change year over year.
You get the star report also?
Not the full star report. Those you do have to purchase, but you can get like, I don't know.
So I'll kind of explain it. So basically CoStar owns STR. So before we used to sell like STR reports as a one-off. However, recently in the last several months, we stopped doing that. So now as far as like benchmarking, we only have CoStar in order to do that now.
They stopped selling star
Yeah,
reports.
several
wow.
months ago. So for example, let's go ahead and click on one of the reports and then, or one of the submarkets, and we'll click on that. And then we could basically look at that data behind it. You can look at RevPAR, the occupancy rate, and things like that. So we'll have that data within the submarket reports.
Okay, So this is the Disneyland Orange County submarket report here. You're going to get some commentary from the market analyst. What happened in general terms here? These reports are always retrospective. So this is the Q4 2025 report we're looking at now. Q1 2026 will be uploaded like the first week of April once we've collected the rest of the transaction information there. Along the top will be your key metrics, and you can hover over any of these and see the year-over-year changes. Comparison trends will compare the submarket to the larger market. So in this case, Disneyland compared to Orange County as a whole. And again, you can hover over those to see the year-over-year changes. You can jump to any one of these sections here. So looking at supply change, demand, occupancy. A lot of these graphs will include forecasts. So we're going to project out the next 5 years on a lot of these metrics that we're tracking. Here's ADR with the 12-month percent change here.
Yeah, and ADR stands for average daily room rates.
Yeah. And then RevPAR is revenue per available room. Yeah, so here's your RevPAR. Any construction that may or may not be going on. Any sales activity. If there's something relevant, there will be some text again from the analyst, like if there was a major transaction that took place or if there was a new construction project that, broke ground.
And you can do this for any type of asset for like industrial, office, multifamily, or retail. We're just doing it for a hotel because someone had a question about that. So if you want to know what's happening with the market, you'll be able to do that, and also with the submarket too. So easy report that you could really digest and learn about what's happening in your area.
You can also export these and send them to your clients if you want. The market reports are kind of long. I'm not sure if it would be, if you could attach that to an email, but submarket reports definitely. Also in the submarket report here, you can get to the list of the properties in that submarket, the existing buildings, what's currently under construction, what's currently listed for sale, and what has recently sold there. So this is kind of a different way to approach use of CoStar. Like instead of starting in the properties tab and running a search there, I could start in the market section, say, all right, I'm interested in, let's say, Orange County hotels. Well, these are the individual submarkets there. Based on whatever metric, maybe it's just the 12-month RevPAR change. So Newport Beach is at the top there, 3.4%. Go into that submarket report. Now I'm going to read about what happened there over the past quarter. Is there any significant construction? What have been the major transactions? What has been the performance of the properties that are there? Who are the major players? Who's operating? Who's buying and selling? What's in the pipeline? So on and so forth.
Is there countries that CoStar covers?
Yes. So for commercial properties, it's primarily the United States and Canada. We are starting to expand into other parts of Europe, the United Kingdom, Germany, and Spain. For hotels, it's everywhere in the world.
Around the world?
Yes. So yeah, like out here. Let the computer breathe.
Easier.
Do it, yeah, let's
Yeah.
do it. So I guess we could go into the properties module, and then we could type in Indonesia, and then there will be hotels within Indonesia too. I know I tested it with Singapore a couple of months ago. That worked. So let's test out Indonesia. And I know for sure like Hong Kong has it too.
Hotels.
So those are all like the hotels in Indonesia.
Just hotels for international inventory, though.
Or just
Is the hotel and resort are the same category?
Yes.
not the local, right? just the one with flag front.
Yeah, well, like anything that has a pin here, that's a property.
So like the gray pins are the properties that we track in Indonesia. Those are the hotels in Indonesia we track.
And you got the owners too?
We could see, let's look at it. I haven't checked the international ones, but let's find out.
We might have those. Let's see. My understanding of the international inventory of hotels is it's about 80% of the global inventory cooperates with STR. Okay, so yeah, there's no contact information. That'll probably be property by property if there's contact information internationally, but definitely details about the building. And you would have the market conditions as well. Lots of hotel data in here. I did not know we were not selling star reports.
Yeah, you're gone.
That's
So
crazy.
like basically with the star reports, how we do it now is like, so I just did a big training with CBRE. So what we would do is within CoStar properties, we would pick 4 or 5 hotels in the area, let's say Pasadena,
Mhm.
and then we'll run a benchmarking report. So
Gotcha.
that's how we do it now.
Got you. So what he's talking about, the star reports you were asking about, so if anybody doesn't know, how that would work is you would call STR and say, okay, I want to get a star report, and you would give them your criteria. STR then would pick 5 to 10 random hotels that met the criteria. They had to be different owners, different operators to anonymize the data so that you couldn't just like get like, this particular person's hotel operating data. But then that star report would give you actual operating information about that building, whatever income they earn, whatever their expenses were, like very, very detailed like that. But it was random and it was anonymized. I used to manage the Marcus and Millichap office in Ontario. Gordon Allred out there is a very, very big hotel broker. And he told me that he would have to sometimes buy 5, 6, 7 star reports to do an analysis of a property because it was a total roll of the dice of like the property set you would get back. So now you can just do that in CoStar here instead of having to drop, I think they were $600 each, the star reports. So, sometimes $4,000 just to do a comp set, that's just available in CoStar now.
So we've been on the training for over an hour now.
Yep.
I think that concludes our training. Thank you so much for your time. What I did is if you could do me a favor, just because basically David and I get credit for activities. If you could just put your first name, email address, and phone number here, so then that just shows that we did a training today and we could get credit for it. And hopefully we provided a 10 out of 10 service for you and that you would recommend CoStar. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Is there any way you can jump to Thailand or northern Thailand?
What's the fees when we sign?
Here, just a second. Just stop my. Oh, whoops, sorry. One second.
But you have to subtract it from
So there's everything in Thailand there.
Oh, okay, I'm typing the email. But let's go back to
Say again? Say one more time? Cal, did you have a question?
no, I was my mic was off. Is this mean that all the people in other country are using CoStar to
So
have this kind of list?
CoStar is not accessible everywhere. I don't have the list of countries that it's not accessible in off the top of my head, but I know China, Russia. I think you can use it in Taiwan.
Okay.
You can't use it in the Philippines. I learned yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, definitely not China or Russia. I'm not 100% sure about other places. Definitely anywhere in the US and Canada.
Yeah, and also the UK, because I just
Yeah.
sold a contract in UK, so in Geneva, Switzerland. So UK, Canada and the US. And if you want it, if you have someone that's using it in another country, let us know. We'll do the research and find out for you.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, and then so someone brought up as far as pricing. So generally with CoStar, it starts off at like $600 per month.